Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and California Governor Gavin Newsom stood face to face in last night's great red versus blue state debate.
So I was talking to a fella who had made the move from California to Florida, and he was telling me that Florida is much better governed, safer, better budget, lower taxes, all this stuff. And he's really happy with the quality of life. And then he paused and he said, by the way, I'm Gavin Newsom's father-in-law. So we do count Gavin's in-laws as some of the people that have fled California.
I can handle it. I'm used to bully. You're nothing but a bully.
You're a bully.
I understand that. Intimidating and humiliating people.
But, California does have freedoms that some people don't, that other states don't. You have the freedom to defecate in public in California. You have the freedom to pitch a tent on Sunset Boulevard. You have the freedom to create a homeless encampment under a freeway and even light it on fire.
There's one thing in closing that we have in common is neither of us will be the nominee for our party in 2024.
We have to get real here. We have to understand that Biden is not a job. He has no business running for president. And, Gavin Newsom agrees with that. He won't say that. That's why he's running his shadow campaign.
Well, I will take Joe Biden at 100 versus Ron DeSantis any day of the week at any age.
Kaylee, it was an explosive evening, to be sure. 2 points that you said sort of stood out to you, 2 moments, was that in-law moment that we showed, and then Governor DeSantis holding up that open the books map of San Francisco just flooded with feces and saying this is what happens under Governor Newsom's watch. What were your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, 2 huge moments for Governor DeSantis among many. It's funny, you and I were texting about how exciting the debate was. What a great job by Sean Hannity to put up the facts like he did with the sourcing, CBP, Bureau of Labor and Statistics. You couldn't deny the facts, and Governor Newsom tried. This was a victory of conservatism over liberalism. And in press and communications, we would always ask ourselves, do we have a facts problem or do we have a messaging problem? When you're in press, you can't solve the facts problem. You can solve the messaging problem. But Gavin Newsom, the single best messenger in the Democrat Party, was unable to package the rotting pile of facts before him because California is in a state of failure. That being said, I still gave him a C. He still came across sharp. He still came across convincing to a certain segment of the population. I think he's waiting in the wings, if not trying to unseat Joe Biden very stealthily. So Gavin Newsom, watch out for him because he's coming, if not in 24, in 28. But a victory for conservatism, and what an effective moment when Sean Hannity, I think it's a model for the whole of the Republican Party, asked him repeatedly and did not let him back away. Do you want any restrictions on abortion in the 7th, 8th, or 9th month? These are full-term babies. Only 22% of America thinks there shouldn't be restrictions. He would not say there should be a single restriction on killing a full-term baby. Every Republican in America needs to watch that, needs to emulate that, and deploy that in races, because abortion is an Achilles heel, as we've seen in so many of these races across the country.
Hegseth, and a lot are saying, however, that for as stinky as Newsom's policies have been, the rot that California has suffered, man, he's in a shiny package. And last night, a lot of people felt that he was delivering it in a very successful, effective way, and that Ron DeSantis, while having a practical approach and outlining exactly why his policies are successful, was diluted and didn't measure up to that shine, that star quality. How do you feel both of them were or were not successful in that messaging component, in the package component that many Americans might have been seeing for the first time?
Well, that's the thing. He's a made-for-TV candidate, Gavin Newsom. I mean, you can tell he feels comfortable in his own skin in that context. And I think it was Kellyanne Conway that made the phrase alternate facts famous. He perfected the idea of alternate facts last night. I mean, he would look at what went on screen. Here it is from the CDC. And he would say, not true, not true. Well, these are the facts. Not true. Let me tell you what it is instead. So as a matter of substance, of course, Governor DeSantis was the victor last night. But if you don't trust those facts or you're willing to obfuscate on that, he spun and spun and spun again, which shows you why he's such a deft politician. I do want to say what Sean Hannity did at the beginning is what the media should always do. He stood at the beginning and said, you know where I stand. I'm a conservative. This is my view. But I'm going to present the facts and have a debate here that doesn't necessarily always represent my opinion. What if one time someone from NBC or ABC actually did that? Hey, I'm a liberal, but I'm going to try to debate this fairly. Instead, they say, no, I'm the middle ground, and they never are. So I thought it was very well done by Sean.
Tammy, let's talk about for a moment, or let's show, a moment between the two for a moment. So it's focusing on the border. Let's take a watch. Sure.
This is a guy that says the Biden administration is not lying to the public about the border. They go to the White House briefing room every day. They say the border's secure. They are lying to you.
I'm the only guy here that's a border state governor. You're trolling folks and trying to find migrants to play political games to try to get some news and attention so you can out-Trump Trump.
Tammy, what say you?
You know, once again, it's a word salad. He's very much like Kamala Harris, right? And this is what you have to be when the facts are against you. You've got, it's like a magic trick. You've got to distract people so they don't see what's really going on over under that cup. So he is Kamala Harris. This is what the Democrats offer people, which is a lot of noise, some sound. But at the same time, this is important when we're talking about facts. And this is what I think Ron DeSantis did very well with. He was prepared. It was smooth, but also authentic, a genuine guy, somewhat imperfect. And Americans now can determine immediately if you're dealing with a sharp, slimy guy, and the two can go together, or someone who, and they learned this from Trump, someone who maybe kind of is like shocking you a little bit, but he means it, and you know that he's serious and he's consistent. This was valuable for certainly for DeSantis and for the Republicans to learn this, that it's not just about not being Gavin Newsom. We saw Ron DeSantis last night as well. And the border is key. Every state is a border state now. He's not the only one. And certainly Florida is. There just is water at one part of that dynamic of a border state. So Americans now, with our lives in a free fall, the economy in a free fall, the world at war, Jews being attacked, are now, maybe we don't need, you know, the smart looking guy who's greasy with the hair and has the smarmy look and the head swivels and the grin. Enough already.
Fascinating, Kennedy. So Tammy brought up Kamala, and there was a moment in between the two where Kamala was brought up. Let's take a watch.
Joe Biden is in the pocket of the teachers union, and so is Kamala Harris. That's why they fought
by the way,
school
it's not
openings
Kamala Harris.
when he
Shame
came
on
in
you.
there.
It's Kamala
when they had
Harris,
that in
Ron.
there.
It's Kamala
Biden came
Harris,
into office
Madam
and he
Vice
brought in the
President,
teacher
to you,
union to
Kamala
be
Harris.
able to do
Stop
all these
insulting
different things.
Kamala.
Oh.
Shame on you. It's like, shame on you for that. Like, the pronunciation of the vice president's first name is not top of mind for most Americans, but they are very curious to see what the relative COVID deaths were in California versus Florida. They were identical. They're very curious to see what the tax rates are in California versus Florida. They're higher in California. And to all of your points, Gavin Newsom was like, no, taxes are lower in California. That is a falsehood. That is one of the main reasons people leave. They pay too much in personal income taxes, sales taxes, and business taxes. They get taxed out of the state, not to mention the crime and everything else. But he was also confronted with crime statistics. And he said, yeah, you know, crime is lower now than it was in the 90s. And it's like, okay, take the deadliest period in California's history. Sure, anytime. How about compared to 2 years ago or 5 years ago? And obviously, the violent crime in that state is unsustainable. And, you know, he tried to flip it back to Gavin Newsom and say, in Orlando, you had a high murder rate. And he's like, yeah, we fired the DA. You know, we fired DAs in troublesome parts of the state. But I hope people watching, especially people on the fence, I hope there were a lot of independents watching who saw that what Gavin Newsom offered, it was propaganda and it was lies. And this is the first time we've had a substantive debate between two national candidates post-COVID when we have all the data and all the information.
Right.
That is one of the things that made this so incredibly important, because this was a battle of philosophies. We didn't get that in 2020 because we didn't have enough space between COVID and reality.
I think about and sort of worry about everything that Gavin Newsom said was a talking point that has been polished and shines gleamly and gleams shining. And I wonder if that will simply be amplified, however, because everything that everyone said was essentially about truth versus falsehood. And the reality is the mainstream media continues to perpetuate these falsehoods that he delivered in a really gleaming package. So I hope that the media picks up what's true and what's not from last night.